A conviction, time served, and a chance at parole.
I think Mr. Eisenberg could be a dangerous individual.
But how much time is adequate to serve justice for murder?
Plain and simple, it tore my family apart.
In June 1996, 11-year-old Melody Curtis was visiting her grandmother in Tyrone, Pennsylvania, when she was raped and murdered by then 17-year-old Ronald Eisenberg Jr. He lured her from the playground across a 4-lane highway to a secluded spot where he attacked her and hid her body in a pile of brush. Witnesses saw him and Melody crossing Shea Field together on the night of the incident, but it wasn't until several months later that he admitted to it, while in juvenile detention for another crime during a conversation with a counselor named Cheryl Capozzi.
He just said that in a fit of rage, he killed her.
In the disturbing confession, Eisenberg spoke about his struggles with anger and hatred. He stated that he became aroused after beating up on Melody and that her murder just happened, something that Melody's sister Cassie finds hard to believe.
He knew what he was doing.
The confession was a big controversy in court, with the defense first stating that Capozzi was working with police. But David Gorman, prosecutor of the case, says that the claim was quickly overruled.
The state police didn't instruct her to try to get information out of Mr. Eisenberg, just said, well, if he says anything, let us know.
But the possibility that Eisenberg, who had taken a special liking to Capozzi, was manipulated into talking convinced the district judge to still throw out the confession.
It was the most wrong decision I've ever come upon.
Taking the debate over whether or not to suppress the confession all the way to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, where it was overruled and allowed back in. Eisenberg was offered a deal: plead guilty to third-degree murder and receive 18 to 40 years, which he agreed to in March of 2000.
Ronald Eisenberg has spent 2 decades, or 2 years longer than his minimum sentence required in prison. And that's a lot of time to think, to feel remorse, to ask for forgiveness. But if he's had those thoughts, he hasn't shared them. What he has shared is that he feels he's a victim of injustice.
In 2002, Eisenberg filed a post-conviction relief act, claiming he was vulnerable to misunderstanding his guilty plea because he was taking prescription anxiety medication, which he says his attorneys knew about and told him to deny in court.
It's just a game to him. He's using whatever he can to attempt to get out.
That's what people do nowadays in the system.
I have no doubt that they did everything that they possibly could for Mr. Eisenberg and defending Mr. Eisenberg's rights.
The PCRA appeal was denied in 2011, and he hasn't filed another one since. But Eisenberg was eligible for parole beginning in 2018.
To me, Mr. Eisenberg is not somebody that should be released early. It's a disservice to the Curtis family.
A hearing that the Curtis family had no choice but to attend in order to keep him in prison.
I would be mortified if he got out, not for Melody's sake or our sake. I'm just afraid of what he is capable of doing to somebody else.
A fight that the Curtis family will have to take up every 2 years when Eisenberg has his parole hearing.
He don't deserve to be free. You know, he took my sister from me, my best friend.
The next of which is coming in a few months, and Melody's mother isn't sure how many fights she has left in her. The trauma of losing Melody in such a brutal way torments her family and heavily impacted their lives.
I just wanted to erase what the hell we've been going through.
It still seems like yesterday that she's been taken from us.
And facing the reality that Eisenberg will one day get out, which could be sooner rather than later, is reopening the wound over and over again.
We're a partial family. We'll never be a whole family again.
Melody Curtis's memorial still sits at the site where her body was found. The fun-loving, bubbly little girl fell victim to the hands of a troubled teenager who was not getting the help he needed. And in a few months, the Commonwealth will weigh the seriousness of his actions back then and decide if he's ready to join society early, or if he needs more time to reflect before his inevitable release.